truth is in the files.
In every fire, it survived. Have you ever felt an unsettling chill looking at a piece of art? For thousands, a particular painting didn't just give them chills. It brought misfortune, even fire. In 1985, British firefighters responding to a blazing home in Yorkshire made a startling discovery. Amid the ashes, nearly every object was destroyed, except one. Hanging untouched on the soot-covered wall was a mass-produced print of a young boy with tears streaming down his face. The now infamous Crying Boy painting. It happened again and again. Across England, homes burned, but the Crying Boy remained pristine, as if protected by something, or warning of something. Welcome to the Conjuring Files, where we go beyond the legend to uncover the documented, the disputed, and the deeply human stories behind paranormal phenomena. I'm your guide, and today we're unraveling one of the 20th century's most bizarre urban legends. Is the Crying Boy truly cursed? Or is the real story even stranger? At first glance, it's just a portrait. A child in a red shirt, eyes wide, tears glistening. Painted by Italian artist Giovanni Bragolin, a pseudonym, it was mass-produced in the 1950s and sold worldwide as cheap decor. Harmless, sentimental. But by the 1980s, tabloids screamed headlines, "Cursed painting sparks fires." Firefighters reported finding it unscathed in dozens of blazes. Some refused to enter homes that displayed it. Others claimed it watched them as they worked. But here's what the headlines didn't say. Correlation isn't causation. Many of these homes had faulty wiring, outdated heaters, or other fire hazards. And the painting's survival? Likely due to its materials. Glossy varnish and thick paper that resisted flame longer than curtains or furniture. Yet the myth grew, fueled by fear, coincidence, and a very human need to find patterns in chaos. So what really happened? Was this a case of mass hysteria? Or did something about this image tap into a deeper unease? In this investigation, we'll trace the painting's origins, from post-war Europe to British living rooms, examine fire department records, interview cultural historians, and explore why this innocent face became a symbol of dread. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a curse, it's how easily we believe in one. Next, the artist behind the tears, and the tragic life that may have inspired the boy's sorrowful gaze. It began as art, not a curse. Behind the tears was a real boy and a real artist. The Crying Boy wasn't conjured from nightmares. It was painted in the 1950s by Giovanni Bragolin, the pseudonym of Italian artist Bruno Amarello, who specialized in sentimental portraits of children. Many of his subjects were orphans he met while traveling post-war Europe. This particular boy, rumor says he was a young refugee Amarello took in briefly, a child who'd lost everything, and whose sorrowful eyes haunted the artist long after they parted. At the time, the painting was just one of dozens. Mass-produced as affordable wall art, it sold widely across Europe and the UK. Families hung it because it was pretty, nostalgic, or simply inexpensive. No one thought twice about it. Certainly no one believed it was dangerous. But then, the whispers began. In the late 1970s, scattered reports surfaced. A man claimed his business failed a week. He hummed the print. A woman said her husband left her days after it arrived. Then came the fires. Not dramatic infernos, but kitchen blazes, electrical faults, heater malfunctions. In several cases, firefighters noted the painting survived untouched while everything around it burned. One crew in Sheffield even joked, "If you've got that crying kid on your wall, better check your smoke alarms." At first, these were just anecdotes, coincidences amplified by grief or guilt. But in 1985, the Sun newspaper ran a front-page story, "Curse of the Crying Boy, Fires Strike Owners." Overnight, the legend exploded. Readers flooded newsrooms with their own stories. Fire stations reported being asked to inspect homes for the painting. Some people burned their copies in backyards. Others wrapped them in plastic and buried them. The media didn't just report the myth, they fueled it. Headlines screamed, "Death Picture," while TV segments featured dramatic reenactments. With the crying boy always center frame, unharmed, the narrative shifted. This wasn't bad luck. It was a curse. And the painting wasn't art. It was a warning. Yet investigators found no evidence linking the artwork to arson or supernatural activity. Insurance records showed fire rates in homes with the print were no higher than average. And the painting's survival? Experts pointed to its glossy, fire-resistant coating, a common feature in mass-produced prints of the era. But facts rarely kill a good ghost story, especially when it offers an answer to the unanswerable. Why did my home burn? Why did everything go wrong? Sometimes, it's easier to blame a painting than accept that tragedy strikes at random. Next, the fire department's secret file and why some crews refused to enter homes that displayed the crying boy. Over 50 fires, one painting always left behind. In 1985, a fire tore through a semi-detached home in Rotherham, Yorkshire. The family escaped with only the clothes on their backs. When firefighters sifted through the ashes, they found something chilling. Every wall was blackened, furniture reduced to ash, but hanging perfectly intact above the charred mantel was a print of the crying boy, untouched by flame or smoke. This wasn't an isolated incident. Over just 2 years, South Yorkshire Fire Brigade documented over 50 house fires where the same painting survived, often the only object left standing. One homeowner, Margaret Ellis, recalled buying the print at a charity shop for £2. A week later, "My fuse box exploded," she told reporters. The fire started in the hallway, but that painting? Not a mark on it. Another survivor, Thomas Reeves, said his entire flat burned after he hung the print above his bed. "I kept it because my mum liked it," he admitted. "After the fire, I threw it in the river." These weren't just tabloid tales. Fire officers like Alan Wilkinson went on record saying crews began noticing a pattern. We'd arrive at a blaze, and someone would say, "Oh, you'll find the crying boy still there," he recalled. Some units even developed an informal rule. If the painting was present, check the home twice for hidden hotspots, just in case. At first, officials offered rational explanations. Faulty wiring, old heaters, overloaded sockets. And statistically, many of these homes were older, with outdated electrical systems. The painting's survival, likely due to its glossy, laminated surface, a common feature in mass-produced prints of the era that resisted ignition longer than fabric or wood. But here's what logic couldn't explain. Why did so many people independently connect their misfortune to this one image? Why did the stories feel so eerily similar, right down to the painting's uncanny preservation? Critics called it confirmation bias. Once the myth spread, people remembered the fires that fit the narrative and forgot the thousands of homes with the print that never burned. Yet for those who lived it, the coincidence felt too precise to ignore. Because when your world turns to ash, and one sad-eyed boy remains staring back at you, it's hard not to wonder, was it really just bad luck? Or did something about that image invite the flames? Next, the psychological power of cursed objects, and why our minds turn art into omens. They gave it away and nothing happened. In 1985, at the height of the panic, the Sun newspaper decided to test the curse themselves. They printed thousands of copies of the crying boy and gave them away for free, but daring fate and their readers to prove the legend true. Thousands took the painting home. Weeks passed. Months followed. And nothing happened. No sudden fires. No mysterious misfortunes. The great curse, it seemed, had met its match, reality. This simple experiment became one of the most powerful debunkings in paranormal history. If the painting truly carried a supernatural danger, why did mass distribution produce 0 incidents? The answer, experts say, lies not in demon, but in the human mind. Psychologists point to confirmation bias. Once the idea of a cursed painting took hold, people remembered every fire that involved the print, and forgot the countless homes where it hung for decades without incident. Add mass hysteria, fueled by sensational headlines, and you get a perfect storm of fear. When tragedy struck, the painting became a convenient scapegoat. A way to make sense of random, devastating loss. fire investigators offered another angle. Many of the affected homes were older British row houses with outdated wiring, coal-burning stoves, or overloaded electrical systems. The crying boy was popular in working-class neighborhoods during the 1970s and 80s, the same communities most vulnerable to fire hazards. Coincidence? Almost certainly. Art historians added context. The painting wasn't rare or cult. It was mass-produced kitsch, part of a series by Bruno Amarillo, under the name Giovanni Bragellin, that included Laughing Girl and Praying Boy. None of those sparked curses. Only the crying boy, perhaps because tears evoke vulnerability, grief, and unease. In times of stress, our brains seek patterns. And a weeping child on the wall? That's an easy symbol to blame. Even retired firefighter Alan Wilkinson later admitted, "We saw the painting survive fires because it was made to last, not because it was protected." Its glossy varnish and thick paper simply resisted flame longer than curtains or wallpaper. But in the emotional aftermath of the blaze, logic fades. What remains is the image, staring back, untouched, as if it watched the world burn. So was the crying boy cursed? The evidence says no. But the story? That's very real. Because sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the object, it's what we project onto it when we're afraid. Next, why this legend still lingers today, and what it reveals about our need for meaning in chaos. The curse lives in our minds. Even today, in 2026, the crying boy still watches. Not from haunted attics or cursed galleries, but from online marketplaces, horror documentaries, and late-night Reddit threads where users swap stories like campfire tales. Despite decades of debunking, the legend refuses to fade. Why? Because the power of this painting was never in its brushstrokes. It was in what it represents, our deep human need to find meaning in chaos. When fire consumes a home, when life unravels without warning, we crave an answer. And a weeping child on the wall is easier to blame than randomness, faulty wiring, or cruel chance. That's the real curse. Not supernatural malice, but the comfort of a story that makes suffering feel intentional. And cult culture has only amplified that myth. The crying boy appears in horror anthologies, YouTube creepypastas, and even inspired scenes in films like The Ring and Sinister, where cursed images bring death. Online, AI-generated haunted versions circulate endlessly, some claiming the boy's tears move, his eyes follow you, or his face changes at midnight. None of it's true, but truth rarely matters when fear is this compelling. Museums now display the original prints as artifacts of 20th century folklore, not because they're haunted, but because they reveal how collective anxiety can turn mass-produced art into modern relics of dread. Collectors seek them out not for beauty, but for the chill they still deliver. So here's the question we're left with. If belief alone can make an object dangerous, does that make the curse real? Not in the way Hollywood shows it, with demons and fire, but in the way belief shapes behavior, memory, and even fate. After all, people did burn their homes down trying to destroy the painting. Others avoided hanging it, changed their routines, or felt uneasy just seeing it. In that sense, the curse worked, not because of magic, but because of us. So tell us in the comments, do you think objects can carry energy, good or bad? Or is the crying boy just a mirror for our own fears? If this journey through one of the 20th century's strangest urban legends unsettled you, challenged you, or made you glance twice at that old print on your wall, do us a favor. Like this video, subscribe to the Conjuring Files, and share it with someone who believes some mysteries are best left unframed. Because sometimes, the most haunting thing isn't the painting. It's the silence after you stop believing. The truth is in the files.